what are teenagers thinking, ever? And are we able to tell by watching them and looking at their faces? And sometimes we are, but many times we're not. What they present to us and what they present to their parents is not actually what's going on in their lives. It's not actually what they're thinking and feeling. Teenagers are extremely, extremely difficult to understand. We know this. We know this. Hi, guys. Hi. Because we see parents with looks of consternation and confusion on their faces at all times, trying to figure out their kids. And it almost seems as if, it's like they hit 13 and it just starts. All of the madness and the confusion about what they are thinking starts. And I wanted to show you some faces to show you that we really don't know. So today, I'm going to talk to you about parents and teenagers. As you know, I'm Rebecca Deurlein. I wrote the book Teenagers 101, and it's all about trying to help parents understand teenagers and what's going on in their heads and how to work with them more effectively and all that. So to go along with that, I created this seminar for teachers to work better with parents and also with the teenagers that come into your classroom. So that the whole philosophy being that if we can get teachers and parents to stop looking at their role as being on the opposite sides, I'm the teacher, you're the parent, we do different things, you'll never understand what I do, which they won't, but we don't have to tell them that. If we can instead create a partnership where we're allies and all of our communication with our parents is focused more on us working together to help the student be successful, then I think everybody wins in that situation, especially the students who we're trying to help. So that's what I'm going to talk to you today. We're going to start first with how to talk to parents. And then in the second half of the seminar, we're going to talk to how to kind of win over teenagers from the very beginning so that they see you as adults who care about them and respect them and want what's best for them versus somebody who's very, it's my way or the highway, that kind of mentality. Okay? All right. So why are teens so hard to understand during these years? Well, there are several factors playing a part in making teens an enigma. And because you are teachers, you already know a lot of them. You've worked with them over the years. You know that, hopefully, that they have an undeveloped frontal lobe, and it is legitimately biologically real. It's not something that they can necessarily control. In fact, they can't in a lot of ways. They can learn to work with it, but they can't really control it. And what that means is that they have all of the impulses to act immediately without thinking and to believe that their actions won't result in consequences. They actually don't even have their brain developed enough to understand the long-term implications of decisions that they are making now. And you take that with raging hormones, wanting acceptance from peers, wanting boyfriends and girlfriends, wanting to become independent of their parents, and you put that mixture together, and of course it's going to be a recipe for disaster unless you know the role that you need to play to kind of rein that in and control it and kind of help them move through those years so that they can eventually get out on their own without doing very much irreparable harm. So that's sort of the plan of the parent. Unfortunately, we kind of take that stance when they're teenagers is how can we get them through with the least amount of difficulty? It becomes sort of the mentality. Ask me about my own mom dealing with an otherwise wonderful child. I'm so glad you asked. So when I was a teenager, I was really actually a pretty good teenager. I was a good student. I was kind of self-monitored. I was pretty good. But I had this one teacher who I decided was horrible. She was my AP bio teacher. I thought she was stupid. I thought she had no control over the class. I had no respect for her. My friends and I made her life miserable. We teased her, we made fun of her, we were horrible to her. I'm embarrassed to tell you. And so I went home one day, and of course, that was not what I was telling my mom. What I was telling my mom was, I have the worst AP bio teacher. She needs to be fired. You need to call the school. You need to do something. She's horrible. She needs to go. And my mom would listen to this, and of course, because I was a good kid and she loved me, she believed a lot of what I told her, just like our moms do. And one day I said, you know what, I'm going to take a tape recorder into class. It really was a tape recorder back then. I said, I'm going to take a tape recorder into class because I want you to hear how bad she is, Mom. You need to hear how bad she is. And so I took this tape recorder into class, and my friends and I all knew about it, and I put it down on the floor, and I didn't tell her I was doing it, and I tape recorded the class. And I took it home that night, and I said, wait until you hear this. This class is out of control. She's so horrible. And I hit play, and my mom started listening, and the look on her face, not towards the teacher, towards me. She looked at me, and she said, your behavior is atrocious in that class. Listen to you. She's trying to teach you, and you little snots are talking over her and being sarcastic and rude. I am so disappointed in you. I cannot believe you would act this way in a class. And I was a good kid, and I did it. So we know that teenagers are doing this, and sometimes they get outed, but their parents, think about it, they're going home and they're telling their parents one story, and the parents are unable to see what's actually going on because they don't have the benefit of a video. Now, nowadays they can, if the child, chooses to do that in class. But even the best kids can be difficult, and parents really don't have any idea what their kids are doing when they're at school. The original title for this book, when I started writing it, was What Your Kids Are Doing When You're Not Watching. But then we felt like it gave across a very negative feeling, like I'm going to out the kids. And that isn't the point of it. The point is to know what's going on at school so that you can help your kids be successful. And so that when they tell you stories about what's going on, you can listen to it with a grain of salt and know how to communicate with the teacher to get to the bottom of the real story of what's going on in the classroom. So we as teachers have a responsibility in that role, obviously, because nowadays kids can come into our class and video us without even knowing it. And sometimes I ask myself, if my kids were to leave, how would I feel about what I said today in class if it were out there on YouTube? And how I acted and how I treated them and the things that came out of my mouth today while I was working with them. It's kind of a scary thought, isn't it? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to open with a conversation among different groups of teachers. It would be great if you could get into just groups of 2 or 3 right now. You want to just go with the people who are sitting behind you or next to you or whatever. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to assign each little group a number. So can I just go around and, okay, so I'm going to give you and whoever you're with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. 1, 2. Okay, so something along those lines, just whatever number I gave you. I want you to look at your number. For instance, the first one is, parents contact you to say they don't understand your expectations for an assignment or even in class in general. And I want you to ask yourself, how would we handle that situation? And if you disagree, that's even better. You can come back with a couple if you have a couple ideas. So everybody's got a number that they're working on, right? Okay, so let's just take 10 minutes to just discuss how you would handle that scenario. I spend so much time in my book talking about teenagers' ability to deflect and to cast blame on everyone but themselves, and how as parents and teachers we can create a dialogue where we absolutely do not allow that to happen. It's not allowed to happen. As soon as they start to go down that road, that stops and we redirect them towards figuring out what part they played in the position they've found themselves in now, and there's no room for blaming other people in that scenario. And that's because that's so prevalent within the I mean, we do it as adults to get out of responsibility, or because we just don't want to face the facts that we messed up. But imagine as teenagers how much worse, well, you don't have to imagine, you know how much worse it is. Any preteens, do you see it in the younger grades?
Yes.
The deflecting, the placing blame.
Every day.
Exactly. I mean, our politicians do it, so why should our kids?
But Sherry, remind the parents that they're not the ones taking the test or quiz, so when they don't know, it's because their student didn't tell them.
And what parent is going to think they a grade doesn't count? I mean, that's
Yeah, that sounds very funny.
Just for fun.
It's like, have you not been to school? Yeah, it counts.
Yes.
I've also taken to having students come to the conference if the parents want a face-to-face.
Yeah.
And I asked the student, what do you think on a scale of 1 to 10 your effort is?
Right.
And I had one that was relatively honest. He said 6, and I said, you know what, I agree with that. And so then we went from there, because it's not my effort that's really in question here, it's your effort.
That's a really good point. And have you ever noticed when you've had a child attend a parent conference that they are pretty honest, because they know that you're sitting there listening?
Right.
Now they're in the hot seat and they have to be honest about what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times that's appropriate, and sometimes it's appropriate to just meet with parents, and we can talk about the different scenarios there, but you probably have a good sense of that. Yeah. There's 2 slides of this. They kind of go in order according to the scenarios I just presented to you. And some things that you can do, I hope I didn't skip one. Hold on. Okay. Some things that you can do to kind of head problems off at the pass, because ideally, we don't want to find ourselves in this situation. We want to preempt the situation. We want to keep it from happening in the first place. So the first thing, honesty about your expectations. You all talked about that. Stated in a letter to parents as well as on open house night. And why this is important, and you can say, well, they don't read the letters anyway because they go home at the same time as the syllabus and all that. And that may be true, but at least you've put it out there and made it clear. And many will read the letter. And when they show up for open house night a month and a half later, you reiterate it again. And now they're looking at you and they see your personality and they've heard some things about you from their kids, and you reiterate it again. So I will stand in front of my parents and talk very clearly about the high standards I have in my class, the fact that they may see low grades in my class. I will literally look them in the eyes and say, do not contact me when your child's grade is lower than what you think it should be. I say that. I tell them that the reason why is because I'm trying to get them ready for college. I tell them some stories about college and how it's just a couple years away, and how they're not going to have access to any information about their children the second they walk out the door to go to college. The only thing they will get in the mail is the bill. That's it. They won't know their grades, they won't know how they're doing, they won't know anything. And so in preparation for that, I appeal to them, please help me. And please do not get on them about every single grade. Because if your parents knew every grade you got in high school, you wouldn't be too happy. When we were in high school, our parents didn't know every little grade we got. They got a report card. Imagine if we had to answer for every grade that we got when we were in high school, every quiz, every test, every project. These poor kids. And so I kind of put it to them that way. Remember how it used to be, and now it's this. And I need you to be on my side in supporting the following philosophy. The grade doesn't matter, the learning matters. And I'm all about taking the focus off of the grade, which is nothing but an end result, and putting it on the process of learning. And if you shift your focus to learning and quit worrying about the little individual grades, which, by the way, are there for the child to make mistakes and learn and grow, and focus instead on seeing improvement during the semester, then the grade will come on its own, and you will have sent a much better message to your kids about what's important about what they're doing. The grade will come if you don't hound them about all of the little grades leading up to it. Let them learn, let them fail, let them make mistakes. They will learn. It's my job to make sure that happens, and I'm going to do my job. And if in turn you could follow that and let them make some mistakes, I would really appreciate it. Will you do that for me? And they all nod their heads. And I send a letter home on the first day of school that essentially says the same thing. It's sort of an introduction to me and then a philosophy of education, my philosophy of education and what's important. And I also talk in that letter about making kids be accountable for coming to see me. So the second thing I talk about at open house is please don't contact me about anything school related until you have sent your kid to me to get the answer first. And if your kid can't get the answer, I welcome you to contact me. But at this age, and for you youngers, you're kind of seeing the progression. So in middle school, you want to start touching on this. So it needs to be this slow progression up to, and I teach juniors, so a slow progression up to me, where we say to the parents, we want kids to self-advocate. We want kids to take responsibility for their learning. And so I'm asking you to please not contact me. If your child comes home and says any of those scenarios that we just went over, would you please say, go see Dr. D about that? And after you've talked to Dr. D, come back and tell me how it went. Okay, you're still involved, you still know what's going on. It's one more day to give that kid a chance to come and advocate for himself. And the parents agree to that, and I have very, very few parent emails. And when I do get a parent email, you know what I say? Please have John come to see me in the morning and we'll get this cleared up. And that's the last parent email I get. So you put it out there, you can say all this nicely. I'm not up there just, whoa, you're saying it nicely. You frame it in the sense of, I'm trying to help your kid become more independent and learn the most important skill he can learn, which is responsibility for himself. And I need your help with that. Will you help me? And when you present it as a partnership, they are way more open to following through with that. And you have to be stern about it. When the parent does email you, you have to reply that way. It's just like consistency with your own kids. You have to follow through with what you say you're going to do. You need to stay totally objective and keep emotion out of your email. You need to relay the facts of what happened, and you need to let the parents draw the conclusion themselves of what's going on with their kid. It's just like when you have a moment of clarity about something, you had to reach that moment of clarity. It didn't come from somebody else telling you to do it. You had to figure it out and go, oh my gosh, this is what's going on. And it's the same way with parents. The minute you start making guesses about what's going on with their kid, what do you think they're going to do? The defense goes up. Is she saying that my kid is crabby? Is she saying that my kid is moody? Is she saying that my kid's on drugs? Is she saying, and I have had that situation where I knew a kid was on drugs and I couldn't put that in an email to a parent. I certainly couldn't accuse a kid of something even though I knew it. And so I had to describe the behaviors I was seeing in the classroom in a factual way so that anybody who picked up that email and read it would go, oh, red flag, right? Same with depression. Don't say, she seems so depressed. Say, she walked into class and said this. She puts her head down for half the class period. The facts. And let the parents draw the conclusions, because they love their kids and they want to help their kids and they're going to get to the bottom of it, but they don't want to hear it from you. So in the first half of the session we talked about how to win parents over and get parents on our side and speak effectively with them, and especially to create a partnership with them. And so of course none of this is going to work if we don't do the same thing with our students. We want to win them over from the beginning, which prevents a lot of problems down the road. And we want to create the right tenor with them and get off to the right foot, because we know as experienced teachers, and you remember what it was like as a first-year teacher and a second-year teacher, You make a lot of mistakes and you pay for those mistakes the rest of the year. This is called the 2x2 method, which stands for 2 minutes twice a week. And originally this was developed years and years and years ago for if you were having problems disciplining kids, you were having problems with kids and you couldn't figure out why, you just couldn't get through this one particular kid. That the recommendation was if you spent 2 minutes twice a week talking to this kid, it would totally turn around your relationship with them. Because you would be reaching out, trying to get to know him, letting him know you care about him, asking him about his life outside of your class, becoming a human being to this person and not just a teacher. Well, I'm not satisfied with just employing that method with kids who give you problems. Why should you do that? You should do that with all your kids. And it doesn't matter how long it takes to do it. At some point, you should have time to sit down and talk to them one-on-one, or ask them how the game went, or ask them how the dance was, or let them see you at an event, or whatever your thing may be, to somehow get to know these kids and talk to them on a personal level. We were talking about the last 5 minutes in class. What I do if I have 5 minutes left in class is I talk to kids. I just socialize with them. I ask them, what are you doing this weekend? I ask them, whatever happened with fill in the blank. I asked my kid whose mom was in the hospital, how's your mom doing? If I have a couple minutes left in class, I am up talking to my kids as a human being, not talking to them about school at all. Just about their personal lives and what they're doing, and hey, I saw so-and-so and so-and-so together in the hallway. Are they an item now? And they love to talk about that kind of stuff. So anything like that that makes you human and creates this relationship with students is super important. Take every minute and every opportunity you have to do that. I don't like being dean of girls because when I stand out in the hallway now, I'm expected to notice girls' skirts. And I don't want to notice girls' skirts. I want to talk to people. I want to watch the dynamics of the kids as they move through the hallway. I want to see who's hanging out with whom. I want to overhear conversations. To me, that's way more important to my job. So, you know, we all are supposed to stand out in the hallway during class change. Oh, and I know the youngers are walking your classes. But you're taking in the dynamic of what's going on in the unstructured environment of the hallway. Who's talking to whom? What are they talking about? You learn so much from that class change time. Take advantage of it.